Hey guys, hope you're doing well. So if you're a petrol head, EVs will probably have you reaching for your sick bag. And if you do end up with an EV in any way, shape or form, make sure that it's not your only car and that you still have access to those wonderful petrol vehicles that we know and love. But owning an EV isn't all bad, despite what people would tell you. There are definitely some good points, and I've distilled this video into 5 points that I think make driving or owning an EV a very good experience indeed. And the first reason is, with these cars, if you get one from new, there is no break-in period, no running in period for these things. Whereas with a petrol car or a diesel car, you're probably going to be looking at about 1,000 miles of very sensible, very dull driving before you can really open it up. And I've definitely been frustrated with that before when purchasing a new ICE car, especially should you be at the traffic lights and you might want an old school race and you're just not allowed because you're still in that break-in period and you're behaving and looking after the car as best you can. So there's no running in period for these. And why is that? Well, it's because the powertrain is a frictionless based powertrain. Of course, there are friction elements, but an electric motor is powered by magnetism and an electromagnetic field. So there's no friction parts, no pistons moving up and down inside cylinders that need to be bedded in before you can open the taps. You can pretty much get in these and go. Now, obviously, you might want to just familiarize yourself with it a little bit before putting the pedal straight to the floor, because these things are fast. But that is a great thing about getting a new EV. You can sit in it and go for a blast. The other part of reason one is these cars don't necessarily mind being stood around for extended periods of time without being used, provided the battery is maintained in a decent state of charge. But definitely, I think my experience with petrol cars, especially older classics, is that they really do like to be used. You need to keep the fuel running through the system. They don't like having old stale fuel sat around, especially my old carburetor based car, right? But that is another, I guess you could say, little add-on advantage of these things. Reason number 2, which is a great plus point about these cars, is you can wake up to a full tank. Yes, provided of course you have home charging capability. Type 2, I'd recommend 7 kilowatts minimum. You can charge these things overnight at home and wake up to a full tank of gas stroke electron stroke whatever you want to call it. You simply cannot do that with a petrol car or a gas car, unless of course you live at a petrol station. And I'm sure there are some remote parts of America, especially with people who go to bed about 9:30, where people do live at a gas station and can top up their own cars. But for most of us, that isn't a luxury that we have. But with an EV, you can do that. Plug it in overnight and wake up to a full tank of electrons. It's pretty cool thing to do, pretty convenient, especially, if your trips of that day are not going to exceed what you've got in your range in the tank. Cool, what's not to like about that, right? And it does seem to be increasingly more expensive to fill your car up. I've got 2 Mercs as well. They're both over 100 quid to fill up now, which is crazy. And one of those is only getting about 15 mpg. So you do notice it a little bit, and you can fill up an EV overnight for about £15, and that is on the higher rate. If you've got an overnight tariff, it can be as low as 6 quid to fill these things up from home, which is pretty cool. So that is, whether you like it or not, whether you want to argue about EVs, it's a really cool thing about owning an EV. Having a Porsche with a full tank ready to go in the mornings.
Nice.
Then there's reason number 3, and it's really cool. These things are bloody quick. Most EVs, even the cheap ones, are pretty darn quick compared to the petrol counterparts. They are really quick, really fun cars to drive. There was a Car Wow video recently where they had a Hyundai Ioniq 5N up against a Lambo Aventador SV. And okay, the Aventador did just pip it, but come on. I mean, the fight this thing put up as an EV, it's insane. And look at the price point difference. What's an SV? About 320k new, I guess. Crazy amounts of money, and you can get that Hyundai for 60 grand, right? So Keith from accounts at Wernham Hogg can absolutely get on board with that kind of performance. It unlocks the kind of performance that previously only used to be available to people that could afford those cars, i.e. very rich millionaires, right? Not anymore. Great performance is now opened up to all at a reasonable cost. So that is a pretty cool advantage of an EV, is the price versus performance. It is something that cannot be argued against. Reason number 4 is the bonus perks that you get from driving an EV. Now, at the moment in the UK, these things are £0 a year road tax, which is pretty cool. Of course, that will change over time. In addition, you pay no congestion charge from driving in London if you own an EV. Now, the argument is it's still a full car size. It takes up a full car space in London, and yes, it does still cause congestion. And of course, by the end of December 2025, you're going to see that perk done away with completely, and you'll also be paying the congestion charge if you own an EV. So that is the challenge right now. The perks I think that we have now, you'll slowly start to see those eroded away as the government realizes, or the local authorities realize, they need to keep the money coming in that they charge for ICE cars as ICE car usage decreases over time. And of course, we see the increased adoption of EVs. Also, you can blag some good parking sometimes with an EV. Very often they have bays that are dedicated for EVs. You have to plug in and you have to charge, but that could be cheaper than parking in some cases, right? But that is quite a cool little perk as well. But yeah, I think over time, reason number 4 is going to become a little bit more contestable as, you know, those perks slowly erode away. But one area that might always be the case is simply where you're allowed to drive with these things, because I think you are seeing a situation now in some cities where they are banning all combustion cars in very, very busy cities altogether, right? So the only thing you can go in with is an electric vehicle. So that is one that might always be an advantage. Reason number 5 for these things is, of course, they are environmentally friendly. Now, right, the jury is still out on whether these things are better in the long run versus petrol cars for their carbon output, especially during the manufacturing process, right? I get that, I understand it. Jury is definitely still out. We probably need to find better ways of making the batteries that power these things, and sodium-ion batteries are looking very promising, sodium being far more abundant and easy to get hold of than lithium, right? For sure. So that, yes, the jury is still out, but no escaping the fact that when you're in a city with one of these things, driving through, it's clean and it is quiet, and they're not pumping out any nasties into the air, right? And if you're using clean energy to charge these things, renewable energy, and we need to do more for renewable energy, more wind farms, more nuclear energy as well, but we need to be doing more there, then it is absolutely a win-win, just in terms of your day-to-day running, you know, not pumping out any of those nitrogen oxide emissions, carbon dioxide, whatever it may be. These things can move along on their journey without filling the air up with nasties, which is a great point. Yeah, okay, there's still braking to consider, but you do most of that in regen, so there's no pad dust coming off. And then of course the only other thing is tire emissions from the rubber on the road. Yeah, so that's something that hopefully will improve over time as well as the technology betters. But that's it, 5 reasons as to why these things are definitely good to own, and if you have one or are looking at getting one, you should be enjoying those 5 reasons as well. That's it. Do stay safe. So I'll see you in the next one, and bye for now.